What did the treatment look like for you after that diagnosis?
Yeah, so they initially removed a big chunk of my large bowel, and they were confident they could remove the cancer just from that alone. And then I went on about 6 months of immunotherapy, dramatically changed my diet. I went vegan for a while. I tried all sorts of herbal medicines and, different sort of therapeutic sort of drugs and medications. And I tried everything really. But unfortunately, 12 months after that first massive operation, and I had a couple emergency ops here and there, but I had a follow-up scan and there's still signs of bowel cancer. And then had to make a very big decision where they had to remove my entire large bowel, so my colon and my rectum, which I knew would change my life forever. And I also knew it was one of those things I had to do, and the type of bowel cancer I had and the fact that the other treatments didn't really work. Essentially, my specialist team said it's not a matter of if the bowel cancer will spread, it's a matter of when. And you have to live the next couple of years of your life having literally 3 monthly colonoscopies and checkups. And there's just the possibility that we'll miss it and it will spread, and then we're having a different conversation. So when you're sort of mid to late 20s and you got your whole life ahead of you, I always say if that happened when I was, say, in my 60s, 70s, 80s, I would have just said, you know what, I'll take the gamble and I've lived a pretty good life. But when you're that young, whole life ahead of you, you don't really want to gamble with your health like that. And I then, had the surgery, and it was a massive procedure. They quite literally, take out your entire bowel, large bowel. And I woke up and was very unwell for a number of weeks, spent a significant amount of time in hospital, had emergency surgeries, things went wrong. I lost about 22 kilos, and I'm a pretty lean dude as it is, and I was very unwell, and I couldn't even have a sip of water for about 3 weeks because my whole bowel and stomach just did not wake up for 3 weeks. And the specialist actually got pretty concerned at some stage, and he had conversations with my dad in the corridor, which I didn't know at the time, but essentially it was we're not sure what's going to happen. We don't know if you'll get through the end of the week, those sort of conversations. And you get in a pretty dark place when all that starts happening and you're so unwell. And that's when I became really closed and didn't really kind of open up. And I wasn't probably the best person to be around. And they're pretty difficult times to relive. But fortunately, I got through it. And slowly but surely, and it was one of those things that there's no doubt if I didn't have Amber in my life, family support, which I'm so grateful I have that by your bedside every day, just giving that little bit of motivation, that little bit of hope. I wouldn't have had that otherwise. There's no way I would have been strong enough to have that. So, I needed those people in my life to get me through that.
I'm so sorry that you went through so much. I can't even comprehend it. And, over the years I've seen, because you've been so, courageous in sharing online snippets of it, but you don't ever fully know the whole backstory. And listening to you now and seeing the emotion it brings up for you, I feel for you so much. It's just it's so unfair. Yeah,
hey, look, it is. And over the years I've become better at accepting it, and you don't get a choice, but you build this sense of resilience, and I think it has definitely served me well for where I am now, and the fact that I've had many more visits to hospital and another massive surgery a couple of years ago. I had to remove a big chunk of my small bowel, so I'm kind of running out of bowel, and your quality of life sometimes isn't great, and that's the thing with something like cancer and what I've been through. And I've had about 13 bowel operations and so much treatment and so much bowel that's been removed. My dad often jokes and says I should have a bloody zipper down there and I can just flip it open every time they have to open me up. And I kind of agree with him because it will make things a bit easier. But I've tried all different treatments, and I've just recently finished a fecal transplant, which in itself was quite strange. But anyway, at the end of the day, it sounds cliche, but it's cliche for a reason, that I truly believe I am one of the lucky ones. not necessarily it's lucky what I've gone through, but the fact that I'm still here. And I've had times where there is no way I didn't think I'd be here today, sitting here talking to you, being in a position to be able to fly from Sydney and, go to the airport and feel well enough that, you can do these things, because there's a stage where I didn't think I would be able to do that. So it does, give you a bit of gratitude in the fact that I'll put my hand up. There are plenty of bad days that I still have, but then when you have those good days, you just appreciate them so much more, because you know how much they mean to you and how rare they can be for me. So that is one positive, one silver lining. But I do often say that people often don't talk about the collateral that comes from cancer. And although sitting here today, I'm cancer-free, to get to that stage and the collateral that's as a result of that, it's put me in a position in my early 30s where for the rest of my life, my quality of life will be impacted. And, that's not to take away that I'm grateful that I'm cancer-free, but often it's not spoken about. And, when you talk to people and you say that, they go, oh, bloody hell, so happy for you, mate. And I am happy. But at the same time, there are some days when I was only in hospital 2 weeks ago again, which once again with a kid can make things a bit harder now. But there are still times where I still go, this bloody sucks.
Well, yeah, because it's not like you're cancer free and then you just get to live your life a normal person. What does daily life look like for you now? Yeah,
so it's over the years when I first had that massive surgery, and then you literally have to train yourself basically to go to the toilet again. And I had incontinence issues and, having accidents out in public, and I was going to the toilet 20 times a day, and that was pretty difficult. And I had a stoma bag for a big chunk of time, and your life is just very different. Mm-hmm. But it's crazy when you get used to something that it just becomes your normal. And so when it first happens to you, it's like, what the hell is going on? It's like when I had my bag as soon as I couldn't even look at it. But then as time goes on, you just get used to it and you almost don't know any different. Sort of similar thing with my bowels at the moment. Like if I go 10 times in a day to go to the bathroom, to me, that's a win. I used to go 20 plus times and couldn't control my bowels. So when you can go 10 times a day, that's a win. Whereas someone else might hear that and go, Jesus Christ, that sounds bloody horrific. But for me, it's like, it's not too bad. But what is bad is sometimes because I go to the toilet so much, it can cause a lot of pain. And even now I've got one, so I had to bloody take a strong painkiller this morning, and unfortunately you have to take a lot of them, but you have anal fissures and it literally feels like a razor blade when you go to the toilet, and it's very uncomfortable and it lingers around, and it sometimes gets so painful you can't even get off the couch. And unfortunately that happens pretty regularly. You don't know when it will happen. And that's the sort of thing where it just impacts your day to day, and you just want to be able to just do things, but you just can't. You're just so debilitated as a result of the aftermath of all these surgeries and such a shortened bowel. But when I'm having good days, my life looks pretty normal. And like you said at the start in the introduction, most people looking at me wouldn't even think there's anything wrong with me. And like I did this morning, you wake up and you go on the plane and you listen to music and you come here and you jump in an Uber and you feel pretty good. And when those days happen or weeks happen, or if I'm lucky enough and I get a month or plus of those happening, you really appreciate that, because you're like, how good is this? This is what it feels like to just feel normal and not have to worry about all these other things.
You mentioned that you had a colostomy bag. Do you still have that now?
No. So it was an ileostomy bag, which is kind of similar to a colostomy bag, but it's instead of your large bowel coming out, which is a colostomy bag, it's your part of your small bowel that comes out, which is an ileostomy bag. And it's quite literally how you go to the toilet, and it fills up a bag and you empty the bag. And it definitely helped having Amber as a nurse, because there were times when I'd have leaks and she would help me help me change the bag and stuff like that. I got so used to living with it that when I had this option to reverse it, I was kind of weighing up the pros and cons, because I was so used to living with it. And in fact, so much so that I was just talking about this anal pain I can get and sometimes my quality of life. There might be every chance I'll go back to having one, especially because I'm now running out of short bowel, and the recommendation might be, hey, Hugo, it's best you get a bag again, and it will be a permanent bag, which does not faze me at all because I've lived with one. But what they've now done is they've created an internal pouch for my small bowel. So it's called a J pouch because it's shaped like a J. And they kind of stretch down your remaining small bowel, staple onto itself, and the bottom of that they stitch to your anus area. And so that kind of over time, it literally, when it first started, it eventually grows. And the human body's remarkable. It kind of adapts and works out that it's meant to be your large bowel, small bowel, large bowel, colon, rectum, all in one. And it kind of plays the role of all three, which is remarkable, how it can work that out. And you can kind of generally live a pretty normal life. Granted, there's lots of things you can't eat and digest. And the issue I'm having now is bowel obstructions, when things can just obstruct it and twist your bowels, and unfortunately you end up back in hospital, and these things can happen. So that's why the conversation of having an external ileostomy bag might actually be better for me. But at the moment, I don't have an external bag. I've got this internal J pouch thing, which is created for my small bowel.
It's amazing what they can do.
It is.
Back to like when you first got that ileostomy bag, what was that like in terms of dealing with the changes with your body? And it might sound trivial, but I can imagine for a lot of people getting that, especially if you're a young person and, you know, your friends are just taking their tops off at the beach and just going about their life, not worrying about that.
No, it's honestly, absolutely. It's a great question, because when I first got it, I was absolutely embarrassed with it. And I put on this, once again, this bit of this front, which I got very good at doing over the years, put on that mask, you know, yep, I'm all over it. This is fine. But absolutely, I struggled with body image issues and kind of back to my chemo days, that sort of came out again of people looking at me, and you've got this spotlight on you and you're different to most other people. But that absolutely changes over time. And it's crazy how you get used to things. And over time, you just got so used to it. So when I'd go to the beach, I'd always be so embarrassed taking your top off and having this bloody big old bag sitting there that's full of your bloody poo. But as time would go on, I almost embraced it. And I actually would put little outfits on it. And, you know, I'm an ambassador for Movember, so I'd put little Movember outfits on Movember time and all this sort of stuff. And in fact, when I've got fond memories of being at the beach, and these kids would come up and they'd literally ask about it because I'd have a funny little outfit on, whatever that might be, and I'd proudly talk about it in a very different way than I first would have looked at it from when I first got it. And I'd say, "Yep, this is a bag, and this guy down here saved my life." And it's crazy that you change that mindset, and that shifting of the mindset of looking at something that is a bit of a disability and something I couldn't even look at, to actually, this stoma saved my life and it's the reason I'm here, and I'm going to embrace that. And it's going to generate lots of conversation, sort of similar ways to how my fake nuts generated conversation, and it absolutely has over the years, raised awareness and that sort of thing. So it takes a bit of time, but yes, you do learn to live with these things.
Thanks for listening to Tell Me More. This show wouldn't be possible without you. If you'd like to show your support, please subscribe or follow the podcast on your favourite platforms, and don't forget, you can watch full episodes on YouTube and Spotify.